5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight,
peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Donald Trump is the president of peace, isn't he? Might we finally see peace in the Middle East as a result of the president's actions? Well, meanwhile, the US ambassador to Israel has called Labour delusional while they try to claim Keir Starmer was critical to peace talks. And
equality to all of its members. Is there such a thing in Islam?
Yes, that's as Keir Starmer arrives in Egypt this evening to take part in tomorrow's historic peace summit. And of course, you just saw a clip there. A mosque excludes women under 12 from taking part in a charity run. The woke left seem utterly silent on this, don't they? I'm going to be asking tonight if Islam is inherently misogynistic. Also tonight... Can you guess who got more time in prison, an illegal Ethiopian paedophile or the three men who protested outside the Epping Hotel due to his crimes? Plus...
China, 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 China.
China! The White House is reportedly furious with Keir Starmer and the Labour government over the China spy scandal. This story will not go away for the Prime Minister, will it? And...
At what point did we become North Korea?
Well, the EU is going to force you and your children to give them your fingerprints and your face scans in its latest push to challenge North Korea as the most controlling state in the world. Well, joining me this evening to talk over all the news, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. I love this clip. What do you think's going on? It only gets funnier, though. That's the thing. That clip only gets funnier. A huge 2 hours of news, and your Sunday night is about to get started. But first, it's your news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed, Alex. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 9 here in the GB newsroom. The breaking news to start with. Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Egypt, where he'll attend an international peace summit tomorrow as part of efforts to secure the fragile ceasefire in Gaza. The gathering will coincide with the return of all 20 living Israeli hostages held by Hamas and the release of thousands of Palestinian prisoners. The Prime Minister will attend the signing ceremony of Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan and will pledge the UK's help in reconstructing the destroyed territory. Further negotiations will address obstacles like Hamas disarmament, the rebuilding of Gaza and its future governance, which could derail the ceasefire agreement. But US Vice President J.D. Vance says an historic breakthrough is close.
We're on the cusp of true peace in the Middle East, really for the first time in my lifetime. Certainly, these 20 hostages are going to come home to their families. I think this is a great moment for our country. Our country should be proud of our diplomats who made this happen. It's really a great moment for the world, too, which is why the president's going to go over there and celebrate with these hostages. But it's a great thing, and I'm very excited about it.
Well, it comes as Israel is waiting for Hamas to release those remaining hostages. It's understood all 20 will be returned simultaneously tomorrow morning. Their families have been gathering in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv to celebrate their imminent return. Israel says they will be delivered to the Red Cross in Gaza tomorrow morning and then will be handed over to Israeli forces before being transferred to southern Israel, where they'll be reunited with their loved ones, after which thousands of Palestinian prisoners will be returned. A cabinet minister says Sir Keir Starmer's national security advisor played no role in the collapse of a prosecution against 2 alleged Chinese spies. The case against former parliamentary researcher Chris Cash and academic Christopher Berry collapsed last month, prompting suggestions that Jonathan Powell had a role in withholding key evidence from the prosecution and therefore they were unable to confirm China was a threat. But Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has said Mr Powell was not involved in those discussions and retains the full confidence of the Prime Minister. A man has been charged with stalking the Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey and his family over a period of 4 months. Inigo Rowland allegedly turned up at the Kingston and Surbiton MP's address unannounced numerous times between June and October this year. The 58-year-old has also been charged with possession of a flick knife. And changes to the European Union's border security controls have been introduced today. Non-EU visitors, including people from the UK, will now be asked to have their faces and fingerprints scanned. It's all part of the new entry-exit system as the EU gets rid of passport stamps in favour of what they hope will be a more streamlined system. Finally, tributes are being paid to the Hollywood actress Diane Keaton, who died yesterday at the age of 79. Keaton rose to fame in the 1970s after playing Kay Adams in The Godfather. She won an Oscar for Annie Hall, one of many collaborations with Woody Allen. Her co-stars in First Wives Club, Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler, said this: Hawn, she stole the hearts of the world. Midler describing her as hilarious, a complete original. And Ben Stiller says Diane Keaton was an icon of comedy, one of the greatest film actors ever. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 10.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, of course. And an Ethiopian illegal migrant paedophile has received less time in prison than 3 men who were arrested for violently protesting because of the actions of that same illegal migrant. Those 3 local men from the Epping area were arrested and now have been sentenced for violent disorder during a protest at Epping Hotel over the sick and vile actions of the Ethiopian illegal migrant Hadush Kibatu, who, of course, was found guilty of touching and trying to kiss a schoolgirl in Epping and a further attempted sexual assault of an older woman. Kibatu was sentenced to just 1 year in prison. Rightfully, locals in Epping were furious at Kibatu's actions, and their movement sparked countrywide protests. Of course, as the reality that these illegal migrants were not the doctors, engineers and nurses you were all promised finally sank in across the country, didn't it? Now, how much time do you think the 3 men who did act outrageously and violently, might I add, and I'll just say that if there's any shadow of a doubt here, I do not endorse what they did, but how long do you think they got in prison compared to the illegal migrant who sexually assaulted a child? Well, the 3 local men received the following sentences in prison. Dean Smith, 1 year and 10 months. Martin Pegram, 2 years and 2 months. Stuart Williams, 2 years and 4 months. Yes, that's right. All 3 of them had harsher sentences than that sick paedophile who illegally broke into our country and then days later, literally a few days later, sexually assaulted a child and then attempted to sexually assault a woman. It is nuts, isn't it? The judge, who oversaw both the cases for Kibatu and the 3 local men, who of course were sentenced, Jamie Sawyer, he's the judge, he said this: I am satisfied that this was racially motivated, at least in part, and you wished for the asylum seekers to be removed from the area. You didn't wait for due process, you wanted to take matters into your own hands. And look, I am simply and quite obviously outraged that their actions, that those 3 men's actions were deemed worse than the actions of the illegal migrant who sexually assaulted a child. It's nuts, isn't it? It's crazy that there's even a comparison. I also want to cast your minds to the recent story of a man who was brutally attacked by a knife-wielding Muslim man because he was offended that a protester was burning a Quran outside the Turkish embassy. That man didn't get a single day in prison. Can you see the problem with that? Or what about Moffat Conophilia? In December 2023, he sexually assaulted a 17-year-old girl on Weymouth Beach by kissing her without consent after she rejected his advances. He got an 18-month community order, including 100 days of alcohol monitoring and 60 hours of unpaid work. Yet again, no prison time. These cases expose the deep rot in our judiciary, whether it's the fault of activist judges, police not doing enough to hold the peace, or sentencing guidelines, or all of the above, frankly. It is broken Britain in action, with the hammer coming down, seemingly, on British people tougher than it does for sick illegal paedophiles who break into our country. Two-tier Britain cannot continue. It is pushing this country to a breaking point and making a mockery of our country. I want to get the thoughts of my panel on this. Political commentator Chloe Dobbs, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Adam, I'll start with you because, of course, Epping, close to where you are, you've been to these protests as well. As I said, I'm not endorsing what these blokes did. Right? We should always call out violence, and I've called it out everywhere I've seen it. However, there is something wrong with our judiciary and there's something wrong with our system when a man who committed such a heinous crime after being here for days and taking the goodwill of the British people as well, while he was put up in a hotel and bread and breakfast every day, went on to commit a sexual offence and got less time.
Look, Alex, first and foremost, the victim, a young 14-year-old girl, I've been supporting that family from the start. I've got to know them. She will never be the same. She's really, really struggled. And people need to know that. People make light of it online, saying, oh, it wasn't that bad. She's really struggling. Now, I've been on these protests from the start. The early few, there were thousands of people there. A handful decided to play up. And a lot of the time it was antagonised by lefty counter-protesters being walked in, allowed to walk in, and aggressive motions towards us, calling us Nazis, calling us fascists. So I'm not trying to explain their actions, but I'm just trying to paint the picture here. Obviously, violence against police, I cannot condone. But one of them, Smith, no previous convictions. He punched a police shield. He was given 1 year and 10 months in prison for that. Yet, I'll take us back to 2024. A balaclava-clad rioter called Ibrahim Mir was caught running around throwing bricks. He got a suspended sentence. Another man, Hasnan Iqbal, threw bricks towards police and protesting in the Hanley riots in 2024. He got a suspended sentence. The North London supermarket attacker that had a giant kitchen knife, waving it at supermarket staff. It was a hate crime, saying some terrible things. Suspended sentence. Now, look, these men were obviously always going to be punished. But how can they get nearly 2 years or over 2 years for such actions when I've just shown comparable cases that didn't even get a prison sentence, that it was suspended? We have two-tier justice in this country, and it is there for people to see.
Chloe?
And Lucy Connolly got 31 months for a tweet. I mean, there is just no way that you can look at the differences in the sentences in these various cases and say we do not have two-tier justice in this country. And people are absolutely fed up of it because they feel like they are living in a two-tier society. They feel like they've got two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier everything, it would seem.
It certainly does. Bill, this is the problem, isn't it? When you look at the sentence that he got, that Kabatu got, versus the three men, and again, what they did was disgusting and they should never have attacked police or been violent, it says something to the British public, doesn't it? It says that there's a system here that's playing against you. That's what people are feeling up and down the country. And I'm not saying it's particularly the judge's fault. It could be the sentencing guidelines, but there is something wrong with that, in my opinion. I think British people, sensible people, will go, actually, there is something wrong with that. That shouldn't be the case where someone's sexually assaulted a young girl, getting less time than somebody who's committed not a nice act, but clearly, I don't think, as heinous as sexually assaulting someone, which will damage them for the rest of their life.
Well, let's look at the whole evidence, right? These were three violent criminal thugs who rightly received stiff sentences. Martin Pegram had 14 previous convictions from 26 offences, 2 of them involving violent weapons. Stuart Williams had 8 previous convictions. Dean Smith, that Adam referred to, had an existing caution for common assault. Our courts in this country rightly take account of your previous criminal conduct when sentencing. You know, the migrant rightly was imprisoned for 1 year, but these were violent criminal thugs. The police commander actually said, and they were at the forefront of throwing batons, throwing bricks at the police. The police commander said in 20 years of policing, he had never witnessed violent disorder on this scale.
So, Bill, how comes Ibrahim Mir in 2024 who's caught running around throwing bricks, and Hasnan Iqbal, who also threw bricks towards police and other protesters, were given suspended sentences.
I don't know, Adam. And part of the problem with this...
Can we guess?
Yeah, but no. Part of the problem is you just get snippets of information that are presented, whereas the judge and the jury have rightly sat through the whole testimony, the whole evidence that's put forward.
So throwing bricks towards police and protesters shouldn't get a custodial sentence?
I don't know the details of that.
But punching a police shield should?
Sorry, if you have thrown bricks at the police, you should rightly be sentenced.
Well, Hasnan Iqbal wasn't.
I don't know the full details of that.
There will be cases where maybe we don't know all of the details, and I think you're right to say that judges will take into account previous convictions and whatnot. But I think it is clear to me, if you look at, for example, Lucy Connolly's case, that we have two-tier justice. When you had a Rochdale grooming gang leader who was part of a ring that abused up to 47 girls as young as 12, that he only had to spend 2 years behind bars, I think regardless of whether you know every single detail there, it's quite clear to me that we've got a two-tier justice system. And very often in the case of sexual assaults and rapes, people are not given long enough sentences, in my opinion.
Well, I think I might agree with you on that. And yeah, that needs to be equalised. But, you know, take the one specific example. Pegram, 14 previous convictions from 26 offences. Are you telling me he didn't deserve to go to prison for a long time?
I'm certainly not. My point was, from the beginning, and I want to make this clear again, is I'm not condoning anything they did. I think it was violent, disgusting, and I think I've made that very, very clear. And they are thugs for doing what they did. I called it out every time I've seen it, on any time we talk about these things. What I think the problem is, and I think this is where we get into the difficulty here, is that actually the outrage is the fact that this man didn't get a longer sentence, that he only got a year. He only got a year, and I think
he'll be out in a few months.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing.
Well, and he's going to be subject to automatic deportation.
He will, which he should be. I hope he does. Actually, I really hope he does.
One thing
well, that's what we're bracing for next, and that's where the outrage is here. It's not about whether these people deserve what they got. I think that is totally fine. I just think that when a man sexually assaults a child, for them to go away for a year and then be out earlier than that, despite the lifelong, mental disorder, she will most likely.
She's really struggling. I'll reiterate that. But one thing I will say, earlier this year or late last year, we heard that the sentencing guidelines would discriminate against white, probably middle-aged Christian men in many cases. Is that being implemented? I've got to ask you because, as I've said, Ibrahim Mir, Hasnan Iqbal, why didn't they go to prison? Why has Smith gone to prison? He punched a police shield.
Yeah, obviously on the sentencing council stuff, as Shabana Mahmood has stopped that, hasn't she? Yeah. She did stop it, and she's saying she will. She's got a veto power now on those things.
But it was crazy. It was even being suggested by these quangos in the first place.
And I think that this is where people feel that there's this outrage around the judiciary, and I just think perhaps it hasn't caught up. The laws in this country have not caught up to the time that we are in, and I think rather than us trying to play around with quangos, we should be looking at legislation going, actually, there are people who've literally been caught with child pornography on their computers who are not going to prison.
Hugh Edwards should be in prison.
But you can certainly argue all those things, and this is the point of my argument. It's just it feels to me that there's a lot of things we need to deal with in this country. We just need to change legislation.
And there wouldn't be quite as much outrage about this man having such a short sentence if we weren't fearing that there's going to be a human rights claim afterwards, and he'll be able to say.
If the argument is that sexual offences should receive tougher prison sentence, and I'm open to that, then you need to change the law. The courts are just implementing the law as it stands.
Let's do it. Get on your Labour friends, let's do it.
Yeah, but let's not pretend that people like Pegram are not violent criminal thugs.
No one
has. Should be in prison for a long time.
Agree. Right, anyway, we've got to move on, because it is time for the Great British Giveaway, and make sure you don't miss out on the biggest chance to be our biggest winner of this year, with a brand new motorhome worth 30 grand, with tax-free cash worth 30 grand and a brand new motorhome. I don't know how, I don't know this off by heart, I've read it a billion times. Here's all the details you need.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash cash to spend however you like. Someone is guaranteed to win our biggest prize to date, so make sure that winner could be you. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, a live shot of Air Force One as President Trump heads to historic peace talks in Egypt. It, of course, comes as the White House has warned Sir Keir Starmer that failing to prosecute those 2 alleged Chinese spies risks undermining the special relationship. They might even pull some arrangements with us on security. Anyway, is it time we took this more seriously? But next.
Equality to all of its members. Is there such a thing in Islam?
Yeah, well, there's the mosques that stopped women from attending a fun run, so we're asking, is Islam incompatible with women's rights? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around, a nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show. Well, an East London mosque has hit the press this week after it banned women and girls over 12 from taking part in a so-called inclusive charity run. Men and boys of all ages are allowed to join, but women and teenage girls are barred. The move has been slammed as plainly unlawful and regressively sexist, with organisers being accused of putting Sharia values above British law. Namely, the Equality Act is in question here, but the mosque insists it has operated within the law. So tonight we're asking, is Islam incompatible inherently with women's rights? And to debate this, I'm joined by human rights campaigner Khadija Khan and chairman of Pig Thought House, Mustafa Varsi. Welcome both to the show. Mustafa, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Because this, of course, has been quite a big story. It's gone quite viral on social media today, and not that long ago there was some other stories of a similar nature. So many people are asking and wondering, and we're talking a lot about Islam in the country at the moment, and particularly Sharia laws coming up a lot. People are wondering, is it compatible with women's rights, and is it inherently misogynistic?
Islam as a whole?
Well, at least in these cases of what we're talking about today, like the fun run.
Sure, but I think it's relatively important to be fairly specific when asking and answering these questions, because Islam is an incredibly broad and diverse tradition with multifarious interpretations everywhere from Bosnia to Indonesia to India to Saudi Arabia, going back from now to 1,500 years ago, and you can find basically every version of everything that you like within that tradition. And so when addressing these things, what we need to do is first highlight exactly what it is that what is the claim that we're trying to make, and exactly what it is that we would like to see. What is the normative outcome that we would like to see? So in the specific case of the East London Mosque and their charity run, I would say that while I myself don't think I particularly agree with the East London Mosque's decision to ban women from entering their charity run, I also think that, again, as a private body, they ought to, in a liberal democratic society, we ought to be able to defend their right to organize themselves however they wish, so long as they're not coercing anybody by virtue of violence. And you can see examples of this in, for example, schools like Eton or private members clubs like White's or Brooks that are male-only and exclusionary. Now, nobody would look at them and necessarily say that these, because they represent British values in a traditional sense, are necessarily sexist or hostile, despite the fact that there have been attempts to try and open these up. We're not having that conversation about them. And so in precisely the same way, I would shy away from making essentialist claims about Islam on the basis of specific actions made by specific people. I would address those specific people within the context of the liberal democratic society we live in.
Khadija, what do you make of that?
Okay, the thing is that you're talking about I'm talking about Islam as a set of idea here, and you are trying to ring fence Islam rather than defending people who have been discriminated against, in this case, women and girls. And now you say that Islam has different interpretation in different society. What unites them is the misogynistic and toxic modesty culture that we have in Pakistan, that we have in Afghanistan, that we have in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, and that we have in certain section of within British Muslim communities. And you cannot deny the fact that these girls and women, I mean, I'm not against having, male-only events. That's fine. Women-only events, I'm fine with that. But when you say specifically that girls above, 12 years old and women, they are excluded from, participating the event, which is inclusive and family event, that is discrimination on the basis of their gender. So I would say that that's fine. We can have male-only events, but we cannot have such misogynistic culture, slipping away and creeping in, which is an essential aspect of Sharia compliance. And I would say we need to understand this one thing, that over the years, there has been a discerning shift towards our society, not in policy, but in practice. This society has been aligned with certain aspects of Sharia compliance. And we need to accept this reality so that we can just get rid of that, because we don't do things here in the UK like this.
Mustafa, what do you make of that?
I think that the idea that Sharia law is creeping into British society as a whole is quite strange. I think Sharia is critiqued all the time in British television, as it is right here, evidenced by the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation. I think it's critiqued all the time. I think it's good and important for it to be allowed to be critiqued. I think that this is true in the sense of we should oppose blasphemy laws, we should oppose the Islamophobia definition, we should protect freedom of of speech, freedom of religious practice, in the sense that it benefits minorities the most, and take a principled view on these ideas. But again, broadly speaking, I think the idea that Sharia is like creeping into British society and becoming mainstreamed is just ridiculous.
What do you make of Khadija's statement there? Because she was talking about, of course, some cultural norms coming in from certain countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, some of those, which are, compared to some other countries, my stepfather's from Iran, prior to the revolution, of course, and they're very liberalised. Particularly their strand of Islam is very liberalised.
Right.
But in some parts of the world, their strand of Islam is much more conservative, particularly Afghanistan. You look at what's happening in Afghanistan today. There are no women's rights there.
I concur. I think that that's true. I think what's important, however, is to figure out we're not here debating exactly how to legislate, Afghanistan and how the Taliban ought to live and how they ought not to live.
No, we're talking about UK. We're talking about specifically UK, that we don't do things here the way that's been done.
Do you think that's because there's specific cultures from different parts of the world coming in and having their version of their religion?
I would say that saying that Sharia compliance is not creeping in is a denial. It's a denial, and we need to be, more realistic about this thing. There are Sharia councils that have been normalized, 85 Sharia council registered, and we don't know about the unregistered, Sharia council, which can be the backside room of every mosque, practically. So we don't know that what kind of laws are being implemented. They say that these are advisory council, but they are not. They are implementing Islamic jurisprudence. They are implementing Islamic laws, which is Sharia. So their women's rights exploitation has been well documented in mainstream media. Saying that there is no such thing as Sharia creeping in, I think that's a denial. And I would like to say that this distorted and co-opted version of multiculturalism that we have at the moment, all cultures are respectful, all cultures are equal, that is a farce.
Okay.
That is a farce that has been predicated entirely on the idea that excessive focus on protecting and preserving religious fanatics, sensibilities and their rights can bring, the communities together. I think it's farce, and we need to come out of this,
Mustafa, can you give me a very brief response, if you don't mind? Very brief.
Sure. I think that it is true that Muslim communities, by and large, are more conservative than the rest of British society, and obviously within a largely conservative community, you will have certain subsections that are particularly conservative that result in bringing in cultures that we may not think are particularly compatible with British society as a whole. But this is not representative of most Muslims. I just
want to say one thing.
Give me 2 seconds for me.
Yeah, I just want to say that this kind of attitude has emboldened certain nefarious element within the Muslim community that they operate according to their own culture and religion at the expense of established laws, human rights, and the essential values that defines British society.
I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. My producer's screaming at me. We've got to go, unfortunately. Khadija Khan, Mustafa Marsi, thank you both so much for coming. Have a good-hearted debate. East London Mosque spokesman has said this. The suggestion that our event breaches the Equality Act is entirely incorrect. Single-gender sporting events are lawful under Section 195 and Schedule 23 of the Act and are common across the UK. The Muslim charity operates under the same legal framework as these established events. All right, coming up, EU nations start rolling out a new fingerprinting and face ID system for non-EU travellers. Is digital ID going continent-wide? But next...
China. 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 China.
China! The White House warns Britain the special relationship may be threatened over the threat from China. Is it time we took this more seriously? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. If you're heading off to southern Europe in the next few days, there's plenty of dry and warm weather on the way for most of us. Further west, though, there will be some heavy showers, particularly across Iberia, and that's just due to the remnants of Storm Alice that's been affecting parts of eastern Spain over the weekend. So parts of eastern Spain, the Balearics, seeing some heavy showers and thunderstorms on Monday. There'll also be some showers across parts of Sardinia, Sicily, and also parts of Greece as well. But many places will have a fine and dry few days of weather to come with plenty of sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst high pressure will keep it generally dry for most of us through the coming week, there will be a lot of low cloud. That means it will be gloomy at times, with the best of any sunshine generally.
First time.
Okay, we're going live.
Is amazed and they're thrilled, and it's an honor to be involved, and we're going to have an amazing time, and it's going to be something that's never happened before. So I'll see you on the plane, and we're going to have a good time. Okay, Peter? Nice to see you. Thank you, everybody. See you in a little while.
There we have it. The United States President Donald J. Trump on his way to Egypt for those historic peace talks, of course, over the ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas fighters. We will be bringing you more on that as it happens over the next few hours. You can just see the president making his way on to Air Force One. He'll be joined by leaders across the world, including our own Sir Keir Starmer. We'll be talking about this later on in the show. Trust me, we'll be digging into it, as I'm sure there'll be plenty to say. Oh, he's having a little bit of trouble there with that umbrella, isn't he? It's quite a big umbrella, isn't it? As you can see, President Trump has now made his way onto Air Force One. There we go. Safe travels, Mr. Trump. Talking of the President and America, the White House is leaning on Sir Keir Starmer to make sure that 2 alleged Chinese spies are prosecuted after their trial collapsed. Republicans are warning that if the trial doesn't go ahead, the special relationship could be undermined and could also threaten intelligence sharing between the United Kingdom and the United States. Well, President Trump is understood to be very concerned about the UK's reliability after charges, of course, against the 2 Britons were dropped of accusing for spying for Beijing. Is this another sign that we should take a tougher stance on China? Well, I'm now joined by the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, Lieutenant Colonel Tobias Elwood. Tobias, thank you so much for joining me this evening. This is a story that simply will not go away for the Prime Minister. Of course, we actually broke the story live on air last week, and it's been throughout the press the rest of the week. Is the United States of America right to be concerned?
Yes, I think there is concern on both sides of the Atlantic. The only winner, I should stress, when Britain and America are publicly arguing about sharing intelligence is China, and we shouldn't forget that. America is Britain's closest and most important security ally, so we must reconcile this problem that we're facing and not lose sight of the fact that China is viewed by Britain, as official, as a systemic challenge to our global order, choosing to reinterpret our international standards and openly crafting an alternative to our rules-based order. China is backing Russia in Ukraine. It's stealing Western secrets. It's involved in technological espionage, and it's developing a formidable military, one of the largest in the world. And Washington goes even further, I think. They state China is now a military rival, a technological and economic challenger aiming for dominance in quantum computing, AI, semiconductors, and so forth. It's a systemic competitor. It's ideologically promoting a authoritarian governance, an alternative, if you'd like, to liberal democracy. So it's not surprising that there has been frustration on both sides of the Atlantic in Britain's inability to prosecute 2 alleged spies on the grounds of outdated Official Secrets Act that I think dates back to 1911, that demands that we label China the enemy. So it's in order for these charges to stick, we do need to update our legislation. We've done so with the National Security Act 2023, and that introduces more modern language. Rather than saying an enemy, you can say a foreign power and so forth. But just the way that the laws work, you can't do this retrospectively. But your bigger point, your question actually is about what is our approach to China? And we've been too opaque about it. We've been wanting to be hesitant, not call them out. Trade is important and so forth. Actually, it's now time to recognize where China wants to take the world, and it is not in a good direction.
Yes, indeed. And Tobias, in your expert's opinion on this case, because, of course, again, it's not going away, who do you think really is to blame here? Because everyone's pointing fingers at each other here. It's become a bit of a circus. You know, we've got the CPS pointing the finger at Downing Street pointing the finger at the CPS, and then there's lots of other accusations thrown at Powell and others. You've obviously sat as chairman of the Defence Select Committee. You must have an opinion as to where the blame lies here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why you ask those questions, and I do hope there'll be clarity provided, more transparency in this case over the next few days. And it's fallen, very awkwardly between taking place when the last Conservative government was in office, and then this is all coming to a fore now that another government is there, but new legislation coming in, as I just touched on. I've always found, and I say this as a former foreign minister, defense minister, it's been comforting to know that throughout decades, much as there's loads of difficult differences, if you like, bun fights over domestic policy, when it comes to our foreign positions, then there's usually a sense of purpose, a sense of unity across the aisle. I would hope that would want to continue. What your question illustrates is the fact that there is a differing of views on what we should do, what our foreign policy should be, how we then move forward. And that concerns me because it means that Britain itself then is in a confusing position. And you need to have clarity as where you stand from a foreign policy perspective, and that for the way it's viewed by allies and foes alike.
Tobias, I would throw a little bit of criticism to the Cameron years of government. Do you think we cozied up to China far too much during Cameron's prime ministerial leadership of the country? I mean, of course, relations, and it did look like China was becoming more and more liberalised. Did we just bank on them getting more liberalised the more, wealthy they became? And did we open our economies up far too much to them? We look at Hinkley Point C, a nuclear power station that China, of course, will have a big stake in, as well as Huawei that we had to roll back on. Have we made a tactical error?
I remember those debates in Parliament. It was actually parliamentarians. It was calling on the government to say, do not get too close. Do not allow them to embed themselves into our digital capabilities. And thankfully, we took the right decision. But your question's very pertinent. It's also a difficult one, too, because it wasn't just Britain. It was the world embracing China as a new opportunity, this economic giant that we wanted to embrace and welcome them to as a global responsible citizen. What was very clear is that they had another plan, because at the same time that they were taking advantage of the economy, they were also starting back then their process to harness the minerals, the rare earth minerals world. That's 30 years, 3 decades worth of effort that now means that they have a monopoly over the rare earth minerals. This is a sort of strategic thinking they've had. They had no intention, clearly, of joining the international community. Whether David Cameron, I don't believe that anybody else in David Cameron's position would have done anything differently, as the Americans didn't either. We assumed after the Cold War that we had actually pushed the Soviet Union into accepting capitalism and the international rules-based order. The assumption was that China would then follow suit, and clearly they haven't, and that's where we are today.
Indeed. And while I've got you, Tobias, if you don't mind, could you give us a comment on on this peace deal that, of course, is happening? We've got world leaders flying into Egypt. You can see on the screens there Air Force One about to take off as Trump obviously goes to sign that accord. Do you think we are celebrating perhaps a little bit too early here? Are you hopeful? What do you make of the situation?
No, it's a very important question, and you pose it, I think, in an appropriate way. We've had so many false dawns here, but this does look like a deal is coming into view. The ceasefire is sticking. Hopefully we'll see those hostages returned. The bombing has ended as well. But, this is 2 full years after those barbaric attacks. And the big question now is, will Hamas lay down its arms and leave, allowing the Palestinians to have a future that's not led by terrorism? And then the second question is that once those hostages are actually released, will then Israel also commit to allowing the space for the Palestinians to then advance a more secure and peaceful future? Give credit. I've been very critical of Trump on a number of levels. I have to say that it's his energy that's made this happen. but he's not a guy that sticks around. He likes the deal, then he walks home. This is going to take an awful lot of effort, particularly by America, I think, pressing on Israel to keep their part of the deal, and the Arab nations pressing on, the Palestinian side to keep their part. If we strike that, then finally, after decades of instability and war, we could finally see some peace in the Middle East.
Yes, indeed. Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so, Tobias. And another question, if you don't mind. Mike Huckabee, who is the ambassador to Israel for the United States, has thrown some shade over Bridget Phillipson today, who claims that, we played a big role in this peace deal. He said that they are delusional. What do you make of that charge?
I'm sorry that we're getting away from the important bit. Your first question was absolutely on the nail there. The difficulties that we have. I didn't see the interview. I did see Huckabee's comments themselves. I'm not sure he would necessarily be aware of what's going on. We've got Tony Blair is going to be part of that committee structure too. I would like to think that we did participate, but did we crow about it and so forth? We really don't know. Let's not get distracted by saying who was then. It's funny, when there is a success story, everybody then jumps on that bandwagon. The hard work actually starts now. The soft power, the investment, the rebuilding and so forth. Let's see that commitment. And I do hope that whatever we've done to date, certainly Britain will play a role, given our history in the region over the last couple of centuries.
OK, thank you so much for joining me, former chairman of the Defence Select Committee and Lieutenant Colonel Tobias Ellwood. Thanks ever so much, Tobias. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, is he the president of peace? Is he going to achieve what the world thought was impossible? We'll be talking about that and more from 10 o'clock. But next.
At what point did we become North Korea?
Well, EU nations are starting to roll out a new fingerprinting and face scanning system for non-EU travellers, including your children. Is digital ID going continent-wide behind closed doors? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, from today, some European nations begin rolling out the new high-tech entry-exit border control system, EEC, whatever they're calling it, that will scan non-EU travellers' faces and fingerprints, including us, the Brits. And this biometric data will be linked to passports and stored under and monitored by the EU and their laws. The scheme's cheerleaders say it's about faster travel and tighter security and convenience. Where have you heard that before? But it really is, well, I think it is, an expansion of digital ID to a continent-wide scheme through the back door. Well, I'm now joined by the co-founder of the Together Declaration, Alan Miller, who's been fighting this battle for a very long time. Alan, I found this story deeply troubling. I do not trust anybody with my biometric data, let alone the bureaucrats of the EU. What do you think about it?
Yeah, Alex, this is a real problem. I mean, so people know, the EU are going to have 440 million people who live in the EU across the 30 nations Schengen zone, all on digital ID. Currently, Italy, France, Germany, they all have national ID cards with biometrics. And as we know, that has not stopped illegal migration. In Germany, 264,000 just in 2025. We know that over 180,000 in France, hundreds of thousands in Italy too. Huge issues across the coast there. So the argument that was made here about it and the arguments there, one would ask the question, why is it that they are fingerprinting and wanting biometrics on all of the visitors to the area, when the real who are going to go and spend money and bring benefit to their economies and then leave, and they still can't control people that they don't want to be there. So what we've got is a situation is that globalist technocrats want to survey, control, look at, constantly assess, be able to nudge and use and coerce with this system. It's a huge issue because we know that hundreds of millions of breaches are occurring regularly. 125 million Americans just in 2025 so far. We saw what happened with Marks and Spencer's and with the Afghani situation, and of course Heathrow. On and on it goes across Finland, Northern Europe. We've had things with IVF, all sorts of breaches across the board, and with our one login system, very porous, very huge issues that they've tried to cover up. So we have a situation now where we're not in the EU, and I think that's very good, but so we don't have control over it. But what I would say, Alex, the reason why the Together Declaration has got this new part of our campaign to say we're not going to allow 8 million directors to be forced into digital ID, that we're going to actually campaign. We're campaigning, telling Companies House, telling the Department for Business and Trade, and everyone. We'd love all your viewers and listeners to get involved with this. And like we did with the Together Declaration, so we're not going to have it forced on them or our kids or anyone else. And we can inspire those in Europe who are having this imposed on them to actually challenge it as well, which in Europe as well, we should note, they've got the Digital Services Act, which is a Censors Act, a censor charter, very similar to the Online Safety Act, the problems with that. So I'd encourage everyone to get involved, togetherdeclaration.org, and say, this is what we want to do to stop and push it back.
Alan Miller, sorry it was very short tonight, but thank you so much for joining me. He's the co-founder of the Together Declaration. Alan, thank you so much. I do think there is a significant irony that the EU, which has cracked down on technology, cracked down on AI, and said that they can't be all this facial recognition in your social media apps, now they're going to impose it on you without there being even a challenge. It is an absolute irony. The EU acts like this bureaucratic dictatorship. There are countries in the EU that don't want this. I know you speak to the Hungarians about it, they don't want it, but do they get a say? No, because as long as it goes through the Parliament and the Commission are happy with it, then everyone else has to go along with the ride. It's crazy. Anyway, coming up, talking about more crazy stories, Prince Andrew told Jeffrey Epstein we're all in it together. Well, we're in it together, talk about them too, in a 2011 email. That's despite telling the world he'd cut off the notorious paedophile in 2010. Is it time the royal family just cut him off off altogether. Next, though.
Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, is he the president of peace? Can he achieve what we thought impossible? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst high pressure will keep it generally dry for most of us through the coming week, there will be a lot of low cloud. That means it will be gloomy at times, with the best of any sunshine, generally speaking, across the north and the west of the UK. So high pressure dominates through the next few days. Very few ice bars on the chart, so not much in the way of breeze, and therefore things not really changing day to day. Through this evening, we will see generally cloudy skies developing across most of England and Wales, the best of any clear breaks in the west. And here we could see one or two fog patches, but these are most likely, I think, across parts of Scotland by the morning. With that cloud blanket coming in across England and Wales, it won't be as cool as it was last night, temperatures generally holding up into the high single figures for most. But across parts of Scotland where the skies stay clear, we could see temperatures fall low enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas first thing. Otherwise, some fairly dense patches of fog, particularly across the central belt first thing in the day, but that will slowly lift as we go through the morning. Quite cloudy skies for Northern Ireland and the vast majority of England and Wales too, with some drizzle or light showers here and there potentially too. But I'm hopeful that the cloud will break in a few spots as we go through the course of the day. Western parts of Wales, the far southwest of England perhaps most favoured, but I think the best of the sunshine on Monday will generally be across the far north of England and in particular across Scotland, where it should be a glorious afternoon for most of us. In the sunshine, the light winds will help it feel fairly pleasant for October, 15 or 16 degrees for some. In the south though, under the cloudy skies, feeling relatively cool. Not much changes as we go into Tuesday either. Many parts of England and Wales still pretty gloomy and at times a little bit damp as well. The best of the sunshine for more northern parts of the UK, where Scotland and Northern England should see a reasonable amount, but overall the cloudy theme will dominate through the rest of this week. Not much in the way of sunshine, temperatures fairly close to average as well for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight.
This is a very special event. There had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering.
Donald Trump is the president of peace. Might we finally have some peace in the Middle East? Meanwhile, the US ambassador to Israel has called Labour delusional while they tried to claim Keir Starmer was critical to peace talks. And... Can you guess who got more time in prison, an illegal Ethiopian paedophile or the 3 men who protested outside the Epping Hotel due to his crimes? Plus...
China. 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 China.
China. The White House is reportedly furious with Keir Starmer and the Labour government over the China spy scandal. This story will not go away for the Prime Minister, will it? And...
I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
Did Prince Andrew, in his infamous BBC interview about cutting ties with the notorious paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, lie to the country? We've got internationally renowned interviewer coming on the show who broke that story, joining me tonight. You won't want to miss it. And joining me this evening for all our commentary is political commentator Chloe Dobbs, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Something to make you laugh. What do you think's going on here? It gets worse, trust me. We've got a huge hour of breaking news coming up, but first, let's get your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Alex. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 10 here in the GB newsroom. Donald Trump is en route to the Middle East ahead of a series of significant engagements on Monday. The US president is scheduled to arrive in Israel tomorrow morning, where he'll meet families of the hostages, hold talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and address the Israeli parliament. He'll then head to Egypt to chair a Gaza peace plan summit alongside Egypt's president and world leaders from around 20 countries. Trump says there's a lot of optimism on all sides.
This is a very special event. There had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before. Usually if you have one cheering, the other isn't. The other is the opposite. This is the first time everybody is amazed and they're thrilled, and it's an honor to be involved, and we're going to have an amazing time. And
Keir Starmer has already arrived in Egypt. The Prime Minister will attend the signing ceremony of the peace plan and will pledge the UK's leadership and £20 million in aid for reconstruction efforts. Hamas disarmament and the future governance of Gaza are among a number of unresolved obstacles which could derail the agreement. Well, the summit of world leaders will coincide with the return of all 20 living Israeli hostages held by Hamas and the release of thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Families of the hostages have gathered in Tel Aviv to celebrate their loved ones' imminent return. Israeli officials say all captives will be released simultaneously to the Red Cross in Gaza before being reunited with their families in southern Israel. Meanwhile, dozens of aid trucks have now entered Gaza in an effort to alleviate the humanitarian crisis. It's understood more than 24 people have been killed there during heavy gunfire between Hamas and armed gangs in Gaza City following the Israeli troop withdrawal. A cabinet minister says Sir Keir Starmer's national security advisor played no role in the collapse of a prosecution against 2 alleged Chinese spies. The case against former parliamentary researcher Chris Cash and the academic Christopher Berry collapsed last month, prompting suggestions that Jonathan Powell had exerted influence to ensure key evidence confirming China was a threat was withheld from the prosecution. But Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says Mr Powell was not involved in those discussions and retains the full confidence of the Prime Minister. And a man's been charged with stalking the Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey and his family over a period of 4 months. Inigo Rowland allegedly turned up at the Kingston and Surbiton MP's address unannounced numerous times between June and October this year. The 58-year-old has also been charged with possession of a flick knife. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more in just under an hour's time.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Has Donald Trump done it again?
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
He is the president of peace, isn't he? And the left, with their Trump derangement syndrome, just can't cope with it. Here he is just moments ago as he boarded Air Force One to fly to Egypt.
This is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before. Usually if you have one cheering, the other isn't. The other is the opposite. This is the first time everybody is amazed and they're thrilled, and it's an honor to be involved, and we're going to have an amazing time. And
well, astonishingly, Hamas have declared they are ready to relinquish control of Gaza, and the Israeli hostages are set to be released. And who's the one man at the centre of this? Well, it's not Joe Biden, it's not Kamala Harris, it's not Keir Starmer, and it's not Emmanuel Macron. It is Donald J. Trump, the man the establishment mocked, the man the so-called experts dismissed, the man they told us was too dangerous to be allowed back in office. And yet, it is Trump who has forced Hamas and Israel into a corner where real concessions are being made on both sides. It's Trump who has proved that American strength and clarity, not weakness and dithering, are the foundation of lasting peace. Do you remember the Abraham Accords? That brought together normalising relations between Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. All of that happened under Trump's watch. The same people, of course, who called him reckless, are now watching him unlock the first serious breakthrough of peace since October the 7th. Now, contrast that with the man the left placed on the highest pedestal, Barack Obama. Do you remember him? Well, he won a Nobel Peace Prize before he even stepped foot in the Oval Office. And then what did he go on to do? He went on to bomb and drone strike swathes of the Middle East, dragging America into more conflicts, not less. Trump, by contrast, is the only modern president who hasn't started a new war. So let's talk about this deal, shall we? Because 20 hostages are set to be released in one coordinated convoy. In return, Palestinian detainees will be swapped back after the Red Cross confirms safe passage. There will be no sick Hamas propaganda shows as Israeli hostages are freed. And a ceasefire that is set to hold, we hope, while Gaza's future is negotiated. And at the heart of it, Trump will be arriving in Egypt, sitting down with Middle Eastern leaders to hammer it all out. But alongside him, you're going to see the weak and pathetic leadership of our continent, Europe. Keir Starmer is desperate to be there. He is desperate for a photo opportunity, isn't he? He's never in Britain anymore. I wonder why. But ask yourself, What has Starmer actually done to help achieve peace? Well, only weeks ago, he promised to recognise a Palestinian state.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine.
Well, believe it or not, that statement was cheered by Hamas leadership. It wasn't diplomacy, was it? It was appeasement at its worst. A pathetic attempt, in my opinion, to secure the pro-Gaza Muslim vote here at home. He's done nothing to move the needle for peace, but he has done something. He's helped Hamas, in my opinion. He helped them in this situation, not Israel and not America. He made a frustrated plea to get that Palestinian state recognised without us even knowing where the borders would be. In fact, even the US ambassador to Israel today slammed the Labour government as delusional after Minister Bridget Phillipson made spurious claims that she couldn't back up, alluding to the idea that they played a critical role in this peace deal. But the truth is, nobody cares what Keir Starmer or his best friend, little Napoleon Emmanuel Macron think. Trump is the only man that matters. That's a shame because we used to be a powerful country. Our voice and our Prime Minister used to matter. It doesn't matter anymore, does it? And let's be clear. Hamas aren't stepping back from Gaza out of goodwill. They're doing it because Donald Trump has shifted the balance. He's used power. Regional partners around Gaza and around Israel know they cannot ignore the power of America. And Israel knows Trump has got their back on this one, even though he has pushed back on them too. Now, the liberal press will tell you this is all fragile, uncertain, and it's all just talk. But here's the truth. Fragile peace is better than certain war. And when Trump is in the room, the conversation changes. The language is an empty diplomacy, it's hard bargains and clear consequences. If this deal holds, history will look back and say this was the beginning of the end of Hamas as rulers of Gaza. And it will be Trump, not Biden, not Keir Starmer, not our weak EU leaders who deserves or gets the credit. It will be the President of the United States. In fact, they might look back on all of our leaders and go, how pathetic and useless were you lot? Because whether you love him or you hate him, and I know there's a mixed feeling about Donald Trump, he has once again achieved something that was thought impossible. That's why, without hesitation, I say he is the peace president. Now let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. Businessman and activist Adam Brooks, political commentator Chloe Dobbs and former Minister Bill Remmell. Thank you all very much for joining me. Adam, this is a historic day. And I know that this country has very split feelings about Donald Trump. I know our audience are a little bit more partial to him than most are. But we should, I mean, even Hillary Clinton has praised Donald Trump for this.
Look, there's no way you cannot say it was Donald Trump that did this. Only days before the actual peace deal was announced, he threatened Hamas with total obliteration. Now, they're not stupid. They know they can either live maybe to fight another day and survive, or they will be wiped out. And they've come to the table. Sometimes threats need to be issued to get people to the table. Now, for me, for Keir Starmer to say that he had an important role in this is just laughable. Is it another, what do they call it, of the willing?
Coalition of the willing.
Coalition of the willing. What a load of nonsense. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is the man pulling the strings. Only he can be accredited to this. And for Labour to try and take credit in any way is embarrassing. And I do honestly think, behind the scenes, Donald Trump and the US administration cannot stand our Prime Minister or this government. But they work with us for unity, you know?
Yeah. Chloe?
So I think, first of all, one thing I'd say is that when I was talking to people in the Middle East in the short time I spent out there, those who understand the terror groups, how they operate, said October 7th would not have happened if Donald Trump was in power. They saw that Joe Biden, a weak leader, was leading the West, and so they thought we can get away with whatever we want. Donald Trump, look, he's had a rocky road to achieving peace where he wants. He made it out as though when he came into power that the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza would be over within a few days. That didn't happen. It has been difficult, but he is a good negotiator, and he has started to make progress here. And I don't want to celebrate too soon, because we know what Hamas are like. We've seen deals where they claim they're going to hand hostages back, and then, I mean, we saw them handing the wrong bodies back. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is the most hopeful sign we've had so far, because we've had a lot of ceasefire deals and deals to end the war put forward many times that people got excited about, but only one side was agreeing to it and Hamas hadn't. But this time we've actually got Hamas somewhat cooperating for now. But let's not celebrate too soon.
Yeah, Bill, I think regardless of what people think of Donald Trump, it seems to me even his biggest critics have given him some praise today, including Hillary Clinton, who I can't think of someone who probably despises him more, frankly, than Hillary Clinton. Should we be applauding his efforts here?
Yes. I mean, look, I unequivocally welcome the ceasefire and the peace plan, and this is a first for me on this channel. I want to praise Trump's role.
There we go. We've had it.
In achieving
Clip it up.
But Donald Trump has actually changed his view. The 20-point peace plan is a plan that Tony Blair worked with Antony Blinken on in the last 6 months of the Biden administration. And since then, Blair's been working with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to shift Trump's position critically that the Palestinians should not be driven out of Gaza, and also that Israel shouldn't rule the territory. And I think the really significant thing that Trump did, unlike, frankly, in my experience, no previous US president, was dictate the terms to Israel. And I think the tipping point was when Israel launched that missile attack on Qatar. And Trump forced Netanyahu to apologise. He said any further attack on Qatar would provoke retaliation from the US. And I think he's brought Israel to the table. Now, having said that this is a very positive development, only 5 of the 20 points are actually in agreement. 6 to 20 are still open for negotiation. So there's a long way to go. Also, the 20-point plan doesn't say anything about the West Bank, which I think is a concern. But undoubtedly, you know, we're going to get the hostages released tomorrow. There's got to be the work to be done on the decommissioning of Hamas's weapons, and there's got to be agreement on the interim administration before you go to Palestinian rule. But this is undoubtedly a positive way forward.
My concern is the fact that in return for releasing the hostages, we've got to release, Israel have got to release a lot of terrorists from prison, and they're going to be let out all out into the wild. And that's one of my big concerns about Gaza, is inevitably you've still got, even if you get rid of all of the Hamas militants, you've got a very radicalised population. It's stopping those groups re-emerging is going to be a very difficult
But Chloe, that's the reality of any post-conflict situation, whether it was Northern Ireland or whether it's the FARC in Colombia. You have to have some kind of framework that addresses and deals with former terrorists. That's the history of how these problems are resolved.
I was at that march yesterday, the Stop the War Coalition march. There was Palestinian protesters there. I was asking them, you know, there's a ceasefire deal about to happen. Do you think you'll ever stop marching? And all of them are very sceptical of anything that Donald Trump does. So they don't believe Donald Trump. They don't trust. I mean, their criticism is always on Israel. When I ask them, they go, do you think both sides would agree to this? They go, no, I don't trust Israel. I said, do you trust Hamas? They have no comment, which I think maybe you can draw your own conclusions from that. But I think there's a feeling, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of reasonable people. We all want there to be peace. I want there to be peace more than anything else. I think this world is getting way too dangerous, and we'll all be dragged into the front line. But some people don't seem to want it to end.
No, of course not. And I think those marches, in the name of anti-Israel, are actually anti-Jews. A lot of people in those marches, they are hate marches. And look, we are seeing a peace deal being implemented. And let's remember, I think it's 8 or 10 of the most powerful Muslim countries in the world back this deal. So why do these mostly students not? You know, they're getting a lot of attention from it. It's making them feel special to walk around London shouting their anti-Jewish slogans. Look, the Trump derangement syndrome is real. They hate it that he's done this. Can you imagine if he stops the Ukraine-Russia war? The meltdown on the left is going to be off the charts. And look, how many millions of lives is Donald Trump going to save over this presidency? And for me, he is the peace president, and I think he'd go down in history books.
Yeah, Bill, do you think we've always mischaracterised Trump, or do you think he's, you know, because I mean I remember before there was a moment in the United Nations where he was warning Germany about their reliance on Russian energy, and they literally were sat there laughing at him. And then what happened just a couple of years later? Russia's invaded Ukraine, and the energy prices, because of their reliance on their Russian oil and energy, went through the roof. Should we be taking this man more seriously than we do?
Well, look, Trump has been all over the place on a number of these issues. Frankly, his conduct in respect of Ukraine has been atrocious. You know, that beating up of Zelensky at the White House, I thought, was shocking and disgusting. Some of his language, which is out of the Kremlin playbook of describing what Russia is doing, is wrong as well. And on Israel, Palestine and Gaza, you know, he was actually arguing something completely different when he first came to power. But the fact is, he's moved significantly.
Yeah.
And I tell you what,
but when he moves, he also does something as well, because, you know, we do see people change. I mean, people change their mind all the time. Politicians move their positions all the time on things when they learn more information, or they come up with maybe someone changing their opinion, like you say may have happened. Isn't it more important, though, that at the end of it they do something? Like, because
absolutely, and that's why I pay tribute to what he's done. But I think the most significant thing is the pressure on Israel. Look, I'm a former Minister of State at the Foreign Office for the Middle East, and I remember talking to the then Deputy Prime Minister of Israel, Tzipi Livni, and she said to me, sometimes, Bill, you guys need to be tougher on us. And that's what Donald Trump has done in this situation. You know, that attack on Qatar, he actually gave Netanyahu a script and said, you ring the leaders of Qatar and you apologise. And, you know, he's really bullied and pressure Israel under Netanyahu to compromise.
Do you think Donald Trump likes Keir Starmer?
Yeah, I do. You know, look, this is a man who doesn't, you know, if he dislikes someone, regardless of their position, he says it. Listen to the things he said about Keir Starmer.
I've got to leave it there, unfortunately. One of our viewers here, Zara Vian, says this is all premature, and it might very well be, but as I said in the monologue, I really want it to be, I'd rather have there be a fragile peace than nothing at all. Anyway. Time for the Great British Giveaway, and make sure you don't miss out on this one, because you can win a brand new motorhome and 30k in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Someone is guaranteed to win our biggest prize to date, so make sure that winner could be you. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Coming up, all of tomorrow's front pages, hot off the press. You never know what's going to be in there. But next,
I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
That was a rather sweaty Prince Andrew there. Well, he told Jeffrey Epstein, "We're in this together," didn't he, in a 2011 email. That's despite telling the world he'd cut off the notorious paedophile in 2010. Is it time the royal family cut him off altogether, frankly? This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. That's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Liz Mitchell, MBE, gracing us with her presence on the sofa this morning. Liz, so good to have you with us.
I am happy to be here.
You have the most incredible voice, a voice of a generation. The whole disco era is down to you. What do you think has made your songs so timeless? I mean, everybody knows them, don't they?
Everybody knows them.
Everybody.
One thing I'm very grateful for is the temper of our music, because it seems to be very friendly, warming, and even our slow songs. I was playing one just the other day for my 2-year-old grandson, and he said, more. I was so happy.
I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's been remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the show. A leaked email has revealed that sweaty Prince Andrew told convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, "We are in this together," just months after publicly claiming to have severed all ties with him. The February 2011 email sent the day after the now infamous photograph with Andrew and Virginia and Ghislaine Maxwell resurfaced appears to contradict the Duke's assertion in that famous interview that he cut contact with Epstein in 2010. The email, sent from Prince Andrew's official account and was signed off with HRH, the Duke of York, KG, brings the relationship between the Duke and Jeffrey Epstein back into question. But is it time the royal family cut him off altogether? Well, now I am joined by the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, what a pleasure to have you on the show as ever. This story, we keep on thinking we're going to hear the end of it, don't we? But it keeps on coming back. And of course, Fergie was indicted in a similar email scandal just not that long ago. What should we make of it? Should the royal family, and are they going to cut ties with him permanently?
It's absolutely time for the royal family to cut him off permanently. And I actually think there will be some movement on this in the next week or so, because the Fergie thing happened, as you rightly say, a few weeks ago. Fergie said to Jeffrey Epstein in an email, or the email was leaked, "You are my supreme friend." That didn't go away, and now this as well. Now this has run all day today. It has got more and more momentum, and I actually think now Buckingham Palace cannot turn a blind eye. I think they're going to do something about this in the next week or so, or at least be seen to make some sort of statement, because Charles looks very weak at the moment. We know through sources at the Mail on Sunday that William is putting a lot of pressure on his father as well. William is horrified, embarrassed, and is absolutely refusing to be seen with his uncle again. So I think they're going to have to do something. It's not a good look. And this particular part of the story just today has been really intense for, Buckingham Palace. They've had inquiry after inquiry. Every news channel's run it. I have to say, a great scoop for Mail on Sunday. And, when a story like this, and there are so many stories like this about Andrew, but this one is just, it seems to finally prove what we've all known for years and years, which is that he lied all the way through that Newsnight interview.
Yes, and Charlotte, I just can't believe he'd go that. I mean, I always find it shocking that people don't think that digital things live forever, because they always do. And if they weren't going to be on Jeffrey Epstein's computer, they were certainly going to be on his. And I just find that absolutely bonkers. But I really want to ask you, what is it, and how far do you think the royal family are going to go here to sort of cut him off? I have heard rumours that, of course, he was always uninvited from Christmas, or was asked to politely uninvite himself. Do you think they're going to go a bit further than that now?
Well, do you know, it's interesting. There's not much further to go, because he has obviously been cut off, in nearly 9 ways out of 10. But what remains is the 2006 Knight of the Royal Garter honour that he was given in 2006, that he signed his email to Jeffrey Epstein, KG, which shows it obviously means something to him. So I suppose they could strip that from him. They could eventually take the Duke of York title away. It requires an Act of Parliament. But I could see that happening. And then, of course, the big one is Royal Lodge. Now, he's stuck in Royal Lodge year after year after year. The place is crumbling. And yes, he has got an excuse, which is he's got a lease on the place. But I think if Charles did something really decisive and somehow said, it doesn't matter whether you got a lease, I declare that lease invalid, null, void. Also, Andrew's just sold a house. Well, Fergie has, for £4 million in Belgravia. He's got plenty of money. He can go and live somewhere. He won't be completely living destitute in a council house. I think something like that, it does have to be something major, because otherwise it just looks like they're condoning, this behaviour year after year. And God knows how many more emails there are to come out in the years and months to come.
I can only imagine, Charlotte. And while I've got you, if you don't mind, I just want to pivot slightly, because I didn't get to talk about this yesterday. And this is, of course, the award that Harry and Meghan are going to be receiving, or have received, for humanitarian efforts. Many people will be wondering, of all the people to give it to, surely not Meghan and Harry. Do they deserve it at all?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think even Harry thinks he deserves it, because I don't know if you've seen the clips of them accepting the award and going on stage. But Harry,
I haven't, no.
Very awkward, like he doesn't want to be there, like he wants the ground to swallow him up. I think actually it's dawning on Harry at last that these kind of nonsensical awards that they tend to accept, there's an aviation award that they accept every year as well. It seems like they're sort of just PR opportunities, and they're not, what have they really done? I mean, even Donald Trump's, doing better than they are on the humanitarian front. So I think the crazy thing is, I actually think Harry's going to draw a line under it altogether, because he knows. He knows now that I think the blinkers have been lifted, that his wife is encouraging these kind of things unnecessarily. She's not a humanitarian.
No, I think it's totally bonkers, Charlotte. I really do. I mean, I think hopefully the penny does drop, because I think it makes them look silly. I really do. I think people are looking around going, them of all people? Come on. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining me, as ever. Charlotte Griffiths there, editor-at-large on the Mail on Sunday. We'll see you again soon, Charlotte. And at 11 o'clock, we'll have more on that explosive story about Prince Andrew with a top interviewer. She is world-renowned. She broke the Prince Andrew scandal. Her name is Daphne Barak. That's coming up at 11 p.m. Trust me, she knows all the details. She is the one with all the scoops. She might even reveal something here. You never know. You won't want to miss it, trust me. Anyway, coming up, can you tell me what's going on here? It gets worse. It gets so much worse. All of that and tomorrow's front pages hot off the press. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. If you're heading off to southern Europe in the next few days, there's plenty of dry and warm weather on the way for most of us. Further west, though, there will be some heavy showers, particularly across Iberia, and that's just due to the remnants of Storm Alice that's been affecting parts of eastern Spain over the weekend. So parts of eastern Spain, the Balearics, seeing some heavy showers and thunderstorms on Monday. There'll also be some showers across parts of Sardinia, Sicily, and also parts of Greece as well. But many places will have a fine and dry few days of weather to come with plenty of sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst high pressure will keep it generally dry for most of us through the coming week, there will be a lot of low cloud. That means it will be gloomy at times, with the best of any sunshine, generally speaking, across the north and the west of the UK. So high pressure dominates through the next few days. Very few ice bars on the chart, so not much in the way of breeze, and therefore things not really changing day to day. Through this evening, we will see generally cloudy skies developing across most of England and Wales, the best of any clear breaks in the west. And here we could see one or two fog patches, but these are most likely, I think, across parts of Scotland by the morning. With that cloud blanket coming in across England and Wales, it won't be as cool as it was last night. Temperatures generally holding up into the high single figures for most. But across parts of Scotland where the skies stay clear, we could see temperatures fall low enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas first thing. Otherwise, some fairly dense patches of fog, particularly across the central belt first thing in the day, but that will slowly lift as we go through the morning. Quite cloudy skies for Northern Ireland and the vast majority of England and Wales too, with some drizzle or light showers here and there potentially too. But I'm hopeful that the cloud will break in a few spots as we go through the course of the day. Western parts of Wales, the far southwest of England perhaps most favoured, but I think the best of the sunshine on Monday will generally be across the far north of England and in particular across Scotland, where it should be a glorious afternoon for most of us. In the sunshine, the light winds will help it feel fairly pleasant for October, 15 or 16 degrees for some. In the south, though, under the cloudy skies, feeling relatively cool. Not much changes as we go into Tuesday either. Many parts of England and Wales still pretty gloomy and at times a little bit damp as well. The best of the sunshine for more northern parts of the UK, where Scotland and Northern England should see a reasonable amount. But overall, the cloudy theme will dominate through the rest of this week. Not much in the way of sunshine. Temperatures fairly close to average as well for the time of year.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, it's time to bring you tomorrow's front pages. Let's go through them together. The Guardian. Hostages are set for freedom in key step to end Gaza war. The Sun. Rashford's £15 million nightmare over dream home. The Metro. The day they feared would never come. The Mirror. Hope amid the chaos. The Times. Hopes and prayers are as hostages set for release. The Telegraph, Chinese death trap threat to Britain. The Express, ultra-fast scan can boost dementia diagnosis rates. Of course, I've got my panel with me, Bill Rammell, Chloe Dobbs and Adam Brooks. Let's go through these, shall we? What takes your fancy? I mean, we've done a lot of the Gaza stuff tonight, so I'll park that for now. We will come back to it later, because you never know, things could develop, right? I think, why don't we start with this China debt trap, because on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, because we're talking a lot about China in the UK at the moment, aren't we? We're talking a lot about their power in this country, their sort of soft power, their economic power, that is forcing our country to do these weird little manoeuvres with our security. We've got over-reliance on perhaps on Chinese investment and their ownership of the City of London, of course, in our nuclear plants. Bill, I'm really critical of the Tories, particularly David Cameron. I was telling this to Tobias Elwood when he came on earlier, that I think we massively miscalculated China's warming up to the world. I think they pulled the wool over the West side, and now it looks like we might be at risk even further with all their investments into Britain. How bad do you think it is?
Well, look, I talked earlier about being a former foreign minister, and I need no persuading of the threat that China presents. They once stole my briefing pack going into a meeting with the Chinese foreign minister. But they are a really difficult country to deal with, because on the one hand, yes, at the very least, and John Sawers, the former head of the security services, said this morning, maybe not a threat, but they should be designated as a country at risk of subverting us. But also, they are a big economic power. I think something like a quarter of the world's economic growth over the next 50 years is going to come from China. And if we are not engaging with China, if we are not seeking those opportunities, ultimately it's British jobs and British people who lose out.
Yeah, Adam, I totally take what you're saying, and I'm a realist at the end of the day. We can't ignore China. We just cannot ignore them. I have seen that America and the West is now slightly pivoting on China, because America's moving its chip manufacturing critical to America's power, which is the power of computer these days. They're building their own in America. They're trying to get all the Taiwanese over to America because they are fearful that they're going to invade at some point soon. But of course, China also owns mass swathes of Africa now, where they know there are natural resources. I mean, are we now in this sort of the beginnings of the Cold War with China that's going to come?
Well, I don't think anyone would win a war with China. But one thing I will say is the difference in our leadership. You have Trump in America that is pushing back and standing up to China and putting Americans first so their industries can grow. And here we have Starmer and this Labour government that are bending over backwards for China and showing weakness. I mean, the Chinese embassy plans are a joke. We've got these spy allegations and that going on at the moment. For me, it looks very dodgy for the Labour government. I would be so shocked if more doesn't come out, and I would be shocked if government ministers aren't forced to resign over this. For me, it looks like we are in the pocket of China at the moment, the total opposite of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that is the concern, is that we're compromised from top to bottom. And again, I accuse the Tories of this as well. I just don't think it was a bigger issue back then, because we didn't see China for what it is. But now they are deeply embedded in our country, it seems. Of course, it's not the first time we've had spying allegations, and we know China's going to spy on us, Chloe. The Chinese embassy is deeply worrying. I've spoken to Hong Kongers who've come over here because we've given them visas to get out of Hong Kong, and they're terrified because there's allegations of China doing this sort of horrible hostage kidnapping of Hong Kongers or people who criticise China, dragging them into their embassies and then getting them out of the country to face prosecution in China.
I think over the past couple of years, people have been so focused on what is going on in Gaza that they've completely forgotten about, A, the human rights abuses that go on in China. I mean, it's absolutely laughable that you've got people saying, oh, I won't buy anything that's made in Israel, but I'll buy whatever I want from China, even though they put Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. And also, they've been massively expanding their control over trade routes and all our data. And I think we really need to talk about it more. And of course, China is a country where we're always going to be economically linked to them, but we have to get the balance right, and security has to be our top priority. And what's completely insane to me is the fact that with this super embassy, what we are hearing is that the security services weren't allowed to have a word and have their say on the planning application there, and that potentially there was a deal done where we were told that the Chinese owners of British Steel, they would waive the £1 billion that they were apparently owed by the government if the planning application would be approved.
Yeah.
And then that greyed out area in the application where we were saying, you've got to tell us what's there, apparently China said, oh, we'll show you what's there if you give us the wink that you're definitely going to approve it. And that's what we're seeing on the front pages today. So it's deeply worrying. And I think that they're so desperate to grow the economy at the moment, that our government is terrified of losing any investment from Beijing, that they are willing to compromise our security. And
as a realist, I understand their hesitation to do that. If this economy crashes now, we are in big trouble. But this is what's happened in Sri Lanka, Bill. We talk about this debt trap, right? China buys up a lot of the debt of your country using its currency, which it has, suppressed its currency for a while, it's given it a lot of power. And then what they do is they have to hand the asset they had to Sri Lanka. They had to hand this port over to China because, again, they had no money. And this is the worry, isn't it? And we've sold probably trillions, billions worth of our country off to foreign, not just China, but to foreign investors. And any one time they just choose to turn on us, we could see ourselves being, held hostage almost to these countries. It's a worry.
No, it is. And look, I speak at an annual conference in Morocco called the Amadeus Foundation Conference, where they bring together America, Europe, and the global south. And in the last couple of years, I've been shocked at how basically China has bought countries in the global south. The Belt and Roadway Initiative, it's basically just delivering funding and garnering political support. But, Adam as well, I know you want to characterise it that Donald Trump is all strength and we're all over the place. Actually, Trump has been all over the place on China since he came to power. And I think that is an indication that they do pose a threat, but you've got to manage it and you've got to work with them. And getting that balance right, I acknowledge, is difficult.
So why would this government give the Chagos Islands away to Mauritius, an ally of China? Why would you do that, Bill?
Because our military base...
if you own something, you don't need to give it away, Bill.
Hold on. Yeah, but the advice that was received, and it was serious advice, was that our ownership of the military base would be at risk unless we cut a deal.
That's absolute nonsense. The judgment against it...
Islands away in the first place. And everyone thought this is really confusing. We got the impression from David Lammy that this was some sort of a decolonisation drive, and everyone thought, hang on, no... Mauritius were never the rightful owners in the first place. And now that this spy story has come out, a lot of people are thinking, maybe it makes sense now. Maybe there is a reason why we were soft on the Chinese and allowed their ally Mauritius to have that from us. And even though we're paying to rent that military base back for ourselves, it is a requirement in that deal that we must alert Mauritius any time there is going to be attack launched from that base. I'm sure that message will go straight to the Chinese.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bill, final comment for you.
It's a conspiracy theory gone mad. We secured a deal that secures the military base in Diego Garcia.
It was secure because we owned it, Bill.
Over 100
Come on, let's not be
stupid. It was at risk.
At risk because the international court that ruled against us, we didn't have to follow their ruling. So it's utter nonsense. We had to give that away, Bill.
It was the military advice that because of the spectrum system that was in place, unless we cut a deal, we were at risk of losing the battle.
I've got to leave it there. Right? But listen, I think there is a serious threat from China. No matter what you think of Chagos and all these other things, we have got to take the threat of China very seriously. We could end up in a war with this country. And I think globalisation is the thing that's failed us here. I really do. I think we need to roll that back quite a lot. Anyway, coming up, can you tell me what you think happens next? It's quite the gear change, isn't it? More of tomorrow's front pages coming up too. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
They
it is really, really tough. But it's also tough for people who are blind, people who are like pushing buggies, wheelchair users. I mean, my late father was a wheelchair user, and back in the day, we'd have to sort of get him off the road, and then we'd be in the road, and then we'd have to get him back up onto the pavement again. And that's a big price to pay for somebody who's not prepared to walk around the block and think they have the right to, park on the pavement.
Maria, how do you think it should work? Do you think this needs to be a national ban on pavement parking, or do you think it should be led by councils, so councils decide area by area where you're allowed to park?
I think it should be a mix. I think what we should do is have a blanket ban on pavement parking, and then what councils can do is, there's certain roads, I mean, there's one here in Exeter where the road is very narrow and the pavements are very wide. I'm not quite sure why, but, it's perfectly safe to park on there. So like a street like that would be fine. And I think one of the problems at the moment is legislation. It's just so unclear, because there's this rule which says that you must not park on the pavement in London and Scotland, but you should not do it elsewhere. So it becomes a bit of a moral maze. And I think that, just to make that clearer about what people should do, because a lot of people sort of think, well, I can do it. And of course, traffic wardens can't do anything about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got your front pages here. Should we talk about Prince Andrew? Should we talk about Prince Andrew? I know I can't believe these emails. I mean, I think we all anticipated something was going to happen, didn't we? But let me ask my panel about this. The front page of the Mirror here has got a picture of Andrew. Royal email crisis, the Daily Mirror. Why 5 words will be the end of Andrew is what they're saying. Adam, I think the end of Andrew should have happened years ago, but here we are, still talking about it, because, of course, as predicted, more on this story was coming, wasn't it?
I've got to say, and I don't want to be sued, but I do not believe a word this man says. I think he's vile. And to sign off an apparent email with "we're in this together, we'll play again soon," for me, come on, they are, I want to say stronger language, but they are dirty so-and-sos, and he should be nowhere near this royal family. He should be nowhere near public life, and he should just be banished away. If they can't prove anything against him, so be it, but he should not be representing this country in any way at all.
I completely agree. I think the royal family just need to be gone with him. I mean, we've heard that he's not going to be he's going to be banished from the Christmas celebrations this year, and I believe last year he was sort of politely told to excuse himself, but it's sort of stepped up a bit to "you're definitely not welcome." So I think we're definitely on that road, but I think they need to just formally say you're out of the royal family. I don't know the exact process as to exactly how they do that in the royal family, but it's really bad for their reputation.
Yeah, Bill, because I was speaking to Charlotte Griffiths, and she's editor-at-large on the Daily Sunday Mail on Sunday, and she was saying there's certain things they can do. An Act of Parliament could remove him, his dukedom, he could be Duke of York, be taken off of him. His Knight Garter could be taken off of him. But also, she's saying they could just say, "Can you just go somewhere else, please?" Because he's got Royal Lodge as well. So do you think the royal family will go that far?
I think something's going to happen. I mean, look, I had a lot of dealings with Prince Andrew when I was a government minister, and I've always believed he's arrogant, he's oafish, and he commits massive misjudgments. But until recently, I didn't believe that he was guilty of the worst accusations against him. I'm beginning to change my view, and this email exchange, I think, is deeply incriminating, and I think the King is going to be under massive pressure to take some step to really distance him and the rest of the royal family from Prince Andrew.
Yeah, and it's so damning on our country as well, isn't it? I mean, he's been dealing with businesses with government before. I mean, we put our reliance on the royal family, and this is the problem, isn't it? You've got so many of them at that part of the royal family. I think that's why I think William wants to slim down our royal family. I do want to show this clip. I've been teasing it all day, all night. Come on, let's have a quick look at this clip, shall we? I don't know why, I just find it so funny. It's something that no one else seems to be spinning like that, just that poor woman just going round and round. Anyway, back to Prince Andrew, shall we? Yeah. Put him on one of those. Should we just put him on one of those for a few years? That will show him up. Anyway, listen, we've got loads more coming up for you and the press here. There's loads of stuff I want to talk about, including we might hear some more news from Donald Trump on Air Force One about what we should expect from this peace deal. Do you think Keir Starmer deserves some credit here? Lots, of course, on the front pages about hopes and prayers over this peace deal here. Why trigger warnings might make you more intrigued. Loads more to come. I will see you very shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst high pressure will keep it generally dry for most of us through the coming week, there will be a lot of low cloud. That means it will be gloomy at times, with the best of any sunshine, generally speaking, across the north and the west of the UK. So high pressure dominates through the next few days. Very few ice bars on the chart, so not much in the way of breeze, and therefore things not really changing day to day. Through this evening, we will see generally cloudy skies developing across most of England and Wales, the best of any clear breaks in the west. And here we could see one or two fog patches, but these are most likely, I think, across parts of Scotland by the morning. With that cloud blanket coming in across England and Wales, it won't be as cool as it was last night, temperatures generally holding up into the high single figures for most. But across parts of Scotland where the skies stay clear, we could see temperatures fall low enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas first thing. Otherwise, some fairly dense patches of fog, particularly across the central belt first thing in the day. But that will slowly lift as we go through the morning. Quite cloudy skies for Northern Ireland and the vast majority of England and Wales too, with some drizzle or light showers here and there potentially too. But I'm hopeful that the cloud will break in a few spots as we go through the course of the day. Western parts of Wales, the far southwest of England perhaps most favoured, but I think the best of the sunshine on Monday will generally be across the far north of England and in particular across Scotland, where it should be a glorious afternoon for most of us. In the sunshine, the light winds will help it feel fairly pleasant for October, 15 or 16 degrees for some. In the south, though, under the cloudy skies, feeling relatively cool. Not much changes as we go into Tuesday either. Many parts of England and Wales still pretty gloomy and at times a little bit damp as well. The best of the sunshine for more northern parts of the UK, where Scotland and Northern England should see a reasonable amount. But overall, the cloudy theme will dominate through the rest of this week. Not much in the way of sunshine. Temperatures fairly close to average as well for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Big story here today on the front of the Times. China has been given assurances, supposedly, that Labour would progress that super embassy. How much are we in China's back pocket here? Another story, China might have us in a debt trap. It's a lot of China, isn't it? I'm getting quite worried. US ambassador to Israel has also attacked the Labour government tonight and saying that they've done nothing over this peace deal. Why is Keir Starmer going there in the first place? All that and so much more. They're all hot the front pages. See you in 2.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News.